Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is another installment from the wonderful mind of Jim Lawrence. As ever, please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. If you haven't subscribed to DMT Forest to Fear yet, what are you waiting for? Smash that subscribe button and why not throat punch the notification bell to stay up to date with all DMT content. And so, without further ado, let's get into tonight's story, entitled The Wolves of October, Chapter 2. Let's get straight into that. The great creature stood across the tundra. He was large, and he knew it. His sire was large, one of the largest of his race. He favoured his sire in both size and colour. His mother was the great creature of the tundra, and she had abandoned him. After only one season, his darker caste didn't match her lighter one, and so she left him to fend for himself. 5 sleep seasons had passed since then. With him alone, the time was even longer, since, like his mother, he didn't sleep like his sire. He just continuously roamed the tundra looking for food. Food was always his main thought, but as of late those thoughts had changed to a mate, so his line would be carried on. He had left the pack ice and moved across the tundra. The air was warmer and the trees denser, and of course, more prey. He considered all creatures his prey. Yes, there were those who would compete for food, but there were none that gave him pause. He came to a tree and raised to his full height. Using his enormous claws, he marked the tree. This was his territory now. His clan's alpha, their pathfinder, he hunted alone. It had been a season since the humans had come. Oh, he had seen other humans in his territory, but they seemed to enjoy it more than wish to destroy it. They were no threat to him or his pack, and he forbade his pack from hunting them. He didn't want the younger ones to get a taste for human meat and organs, but mostly because he knew that the humans would bring death with them. He would stay as far away as he could. He snaps back to his purpose. He's on the hunt, and hunting had been very poor this season. There was a new little one, along with his own offspring, that must eat. Food had been found, and he had been following the scent of deer, and the pack needed the meat. He came to a clearing, and he saw the creature. It was no deer. It was much larger. He knew it would feed the pack and feed them well. He stalked it silently, and then with a quick charge, tripped it and ended its life with a single bite to the throat. The great caribou lay dead. It was an old one, but that didn't matter. It would feed the pack. He began to drag the kill back to his den site when he saw the doe, only a few yards away. She showed no fear as she approached him. The lines of her body began to blur. Where once stood a doe, now stood a tall, and by human standards very beautiful First Nation woman. He growled and took on a defensive stance. Unperturbed by his aggressive nature, she walked up and placed a smooth hand on his head. He remembered the smell of this human, and as she stroked his massive head, he remembered his younger, more playful days. He remembered his brother, the great wolf of the north, and his mentor, who he shared both man and in wolf in the same body. He remembered this human, not a human at all, but a great northern spirit. He knew she had called herself Dawn. But she was not old, but the living spirit of the deer. He allowed her to stroke, pet him, and he became young and free from the trouble in her arms. It is good to see you, Great One. You have grown large, and you have a mate, and a young one, and you lead your own pack. The spirits are well pleased. Please accept this gift of meat for your pack. I also come with a warning. Food will be scarce this season. Your young and old will grow hungry. Take your family back to the lands of the Hatemi Honehi, and there you will find food. And another warning. A great beast has arrived from the great north. To fight him over the resources this season will not benefit you and your pack. The beast will not be defeated easily, for he is your match. He will target your young. Go south, Great Wolf. Go south. while in Washington State to the south. 3 men sat around the table making plans, while the other 2 were checking on getting supplies for the trip. Bill Thompson speaks about the area. We can set up a base camp in Ape Valley. They have a visitor center there, and we can use the power, and it's also a good access point. The journal speaks about the entrance to a complex was on the northeast side, but the northeast side doesn't exist anymore. The journal also says that Yuri's father came out of an exit on the south side. So, we set up a base camp at Ape Valley, head into the fields over Abraham, and south over Muddy Creek to the south face of St. Helens. He will need a permit to work there, but that shouldn't be much of a problem. Jim asks about the activity in the area, and Bill continues, well, they don't call it Ape Valley for nothing. They've had Bigfoot sightings there since 1924. And not all are passive, which may indicate Gugway, and to the north is Doghead Peak. They don't call it that for the rock formations. Jim, who had been taking in every word, says, we've already encountered dangerous dogmen up in Mount Baker, and a Sasquatch clan, which we need to be thankful they weren't Gugway. I think it would be best and faster if Lou and I go in. We can move faster and less detected than a larger party. Once we find the entrance and ascertain it's safe, I can return and take you right to it. That would be both faster and safer for y'all. But not more fun, Bill snorts. James DeHue almost shouts, you're not going to leave us here, sitting on your collective asses? You use this as an excuse to run through the forest? Sorry, son. I lost my temper for a second. Both men notice that Yuri takes notice when Jim's real name is spoken. We all go in together, set up a proper base camp, and check this thing out by the books. Jim can do little more than nod and say yes, Professor. And Lou, on the other hand, give them an almost comical look. I swear, if that wolf could laugh, he would be rolling up right now. Bill leaves to set up the team and the paperwork. Yuri goes to Jim, saying, Dr. Thompson, you can call him Professor. Man, he called you Dehu. Is that your real name? Jim nods and says, Bill was my archaeology professor at Stephen F. Austin State. Yes, my family name is Dehu. I changed it when my father and I had a falling out. Yuri comments the name is French, is it not? Jim nods again. My ancestors were from France. Yuri again comments, the south of France, da? Yes, Dr. Chernoff, the south of France. Are you trying to make a point? Just interesting, is all. The men go about their business getting ready for the expedition. Bill's research team wasn't too far away, and so they get there quick. The necessary paperwork is dealt with, and they are off to Ape Valley to set up. Everyone turns in early that night, ready to start in the morning, except Jim and Bill. They are up late, talking in Bill's tent. I'm going on ahead. I want to check this out, as only I can. Make sure my gear is taken along. My bag will only have a few clothes in it, and my weapons, if I need them. Bill nods. I understand. Jim has his hands full with his bag and rifle case and starts to disrobe. The next morning, the 4 men get ready to move out. Where is Mr. Johnson at? Yuri persists. He went on ahead to scope out the land, and we will catch up to him tonight. Which we should be able to bivouac on the south slope. Jim will meet us there. Peter remarks, I understand traveling light to move faster, but he left his weapons in your care. What if he runs into more of those creatures? Will he not need them? He has Lou with him, and he is never weaponless. He even once used skunks to defeat an FBI fire team that was hunting him. For a crime he didn't commit, of course. Peter chimes in. If they had the Spetsnaz, he would have been caught. Stephen coughs under his breath. I doubt that. Nothing more said, the party heads to the south face of the mountain. Jim and Lou run through the forest as only 2 wolves can, 2 very large wolves. Jim, in full control of his mind, picks up the spoor from a multitude of creatures, everything from bear to marmot. He also picks up on a Sasquatch in the area, but is not a normal one. He has smelt this scent before, a thrice-damned Gugway. He hopes it steers clear of the group tonight. Alone, it will not cause that much harm. Let's hope it doesn't have friends. He patrols along the south slope, and he can't seem to pick up anything that might be an entrance into the mountain. He does find a decent area for the group to camp for the night, and he sends Lou back to guide Bill and the party to this spot. Lou leaves reluctantly, and Jim continues to sniff around. And finally, he locks on to a vague scent. It's metal, about a couple of feet deep under the rubble. This could be it. The party camps just down the way. Lou brings Jim his bag, and before long Jim walks into camp and begins to tell the others what he may have found. We can start trying to clear it in the morning. With any luck at all, it'll be the exit that Yuri's dad had to use to escape the complex. A tired group of people fold themselves into their tents that night. While up on the mountain, a pair of angry red eyes peer down as it picks up a very large rock. In the north, the great beast has found his mate, smaller than him, but receptive. He had found her late in the season. Uncharacteristic for his kind, he had stayed close, following her to make sure no other came along. He had killed one other suitor, but others had kept their distance. Now she was looking for a place to sleep and birth her cubs. He knew he would not sleep, but make sure she was watched over. His line would progress. She had left the forest, where they hunted, and moved further south, looking to den. As they moved into this new territory, he noticed that it was marked by wolves. This didn't matter, for he would mark his territory as his own, and any that stood against him would die. A mother's love and a father's pride, many believe, is a human trait. It isn't. A family hunts together. The cub is young, but he starts to learn to kill small game. His parents know that their pack will move south soon. This, their pathfinder, has mandated. A little more fat before the trip, and the chance to show this young one how to hunt and kill its prey. The little one has killed a small creature, and was tearing into it, when the great beast came into the clearing. The family froze, but they knew there was nothing to fear, for this female was small, and did not pose a threat. Until she decided that the cub's kill was hers. The parents wasted no time in driving her away, her knowing she was no match for the two fully grown parents. The father decided to punish the perpetrator with a slash of claws, gashing her side and ending her pregnancy. She limped away from the fight and into the great beast that had fathered her cub. He sniffed the air. Not only could he tell that others hunted this territory, but they had injured his mate, and she had lost the cub. The great beast flew into an uncontrollable rage, and with a single swipe of his great claws he killed his mate, for she was no use to him now, and started on the hunt for those that had injured her. He soon found them, and with a challenge roar attacked the male. He was formidable, but no match for the great bear, and again one swipe of his claws killed his adversary. He eyed the female trying to protect her cub behind her. The great bear charged. Her scream was almost human as she died. Only the cub remained. The pack's pathfinder heard the noise and ran with all of his speed to it. He entered the clearing in time to see the great bear devour the cub of his pack mate. The great bear released another challenging roar, but the great wolf, the pathfinder of his clan, didn't waste the time. He charged the bear, knocking it off his feet. Tooth and claw versus tooth and claw. Speed versus brute strength. The only name he ever knew was Tony, and it was him that matched the great bear. They tore at one another, both doing severe damage to the other. The fight seemed to have lasted for hours, with no clear winner. Finally, both combatants backed off. The great bear knew he had to heal, but so did Tony. They had both lost a lot of blood. Both Tony knew he had to lead his pack south, and he couldn't do that if he was injured, or worse, dead. And so he retreated, as did the great bear. They say animals don't think, they only react, and that they are not capable of rational thought. The great bear was capable of both, and he knew he would kill this wolf that had hurt him, and he would kill the entire pack. He would follow them as far as he needed to. The pathfinder of his clan then leads his pack south. The going was, and will be, slow. He was severely hurt, and he knew he must find the man that was also a wolf. Like him, he must find the man he knew he could trust. He must find Jim. Meanwhile, at Mount St. Helens, Lou and Raz's ears pop up at the same time, which alerts Jim and Peter to the danger as a rock soars into the camp. Jim uses his night scope to scan the mountain line. He catches movement, but only for a second before it's gone into the trees. The rest of the night is filled with harassment, rocks, knocks and whistles, but the most disconcerting thing, it sounds like a baby crying. Yuri and Peter have never heard this sound before. I have no clue how to deal with it. Bill tells them it's a gugwe, and that's one of their imitating sounds they make to draw unsuspecting victims in. Jim tells everyone to try and get some rest. I don't believe they will attack tonight. There may be a 1 or 2. They are not confident in their numbers against an armed party. Jim remains on watch the rest of the night, and early the next morning Yuri approaches him. "Mr. Johnson, may I ask you something?" "Yes, and please, call me Jim." "Thank you, Mr. Jim. I was wondering, your family name, the who? How far have you traced your roots?" Jim laughs. "Far enough back to be able to answer your question. Yes, one of my ancestors was the Marquis of Gévaudan during the time of the fabled beast." "That is amazing, Jim." The conversation is cut short by the other men rising about and making coffee and breakfast. Jim starts to try and remove the rocks when Yuri tells him he has a better way. As he produces a small charge, Bill says, "I don't even want to know how you got that through the airport." A few moments later, and the rock slides away, leaving an outline of an old metal door. They work for the rest of the day to get the door open, and Jim secretly adding a bit of supernatural strength. They finally force it open. It's dark and musty inside, like it's been unoccupied for years. Both Lou and Raz's ears and hackles go up. As Peter says, "We are not alone." Jim surveys the area and says, "We need to get inside now." They quickly move their gear into the opening. A large rock comes sailing into the empty campsite, and they shut the door fast and start to block it when another rock hits the form from the outside. "We need to get this door shut solid. I think they have the numbers now to try and take us out." 4 lanterns fan out seeking stuff to block the door. And Jim manages to get the bolts to slide into place, though it doesn't look like it will hold against a solid onslaught. Then, all is quiet. They hold their portions for at least half an hour, but it's unearthly quiet. Jim says they are gone, pulls the bolt back and opens the door. What was a battlefield a short time ago is quiet and still. "Let's go, guys." Jim relocks the door, and the 4 men start to explore the dark corridors. "These lights will not last long," Bill says. "We need to see if the generators in this place still work. We will need to find them before we can do that, though." Jim looks deep into Lou's eyes for a few seconds, and then he jets off down the corridors in search of his target. The group proceeds down the tunnels. Bill also adds in that these tunnels are in very good shape for surviving a volcanic eruption. I wonder if we are alone. Lou returns a short time later and leads them to a room with several generators in it. Peter checks them out, telling the rest that there is still fuel in these, and that they are well maintained. Yuri asks, "Can you get them running?" Peter nods, and a few moments later, the bank of generators roars to life. Peter then throws a switch, and the place is floored with light. After moving off down the tunnels, they almost wish they couldn't see what lay ahead. They explore most of the day. They find cages and viewing areas. They also find a room that reminded them of an operating theatre. They also find what appears to be a morgue, and they find bodies of both human and human hybrids, and some things they have no clue of what they are. Jim says under his voice, "Project Rougarou." Bill nods, knowing what he is referring to. Soon they finally find what is left of the north face inside the compound. Peter says, "I do not know what a volcanic eruption looks like. That's Yuri's expertise. These are blast marks from the explosives. They were set off in here, not outside. Someone tried to blow this place up from the inside. Looks like the old stories were true, a secret base, but this place doesn't look like it's been unused since the 80s. They realize the hour has grown late, and they make their way back to the sleeping quarters they came across and set up a guard and a sleeping rotation for the night. Tomorrow should be an interesting day. Their watches say 6 a.m. There is no way to see the outside. We need to get out, but now that we know that this place exists, what do we do now? Jim says what everyone is thinking. Bill, can you contact Steve at base camp? Bill tells him no, there is too much static, and we are under tons and tons of solid rock. As one, both Wolfdog's ears snap up as they move towards the door. Jim says there is someone or something out there. Almost on cue, the heavy door bursts inward, completely off its hinges. The creature standing there is over 8 feet tall. Its growl is almost like a high-pitched whine. Peter levels his AK, but before he can open fire, the creature is gone, and now unfortunately, so are the lights. Jim yells, "We need to get out of here now. This is a trap. We have no room to maneuver in here. It may be difficult to retrace our path with the lights out." And Bill says, "And we may be hard-pressed with the lights in our hands instead of weapons." "We will use the lanterns 2 at a time," says Jim. "Peter and I will carry our weapons, while Bill, you and Yuri carry the lanterns. Peter, do you mind taking the rear? I will take the point." While Jim is issuing commands, he switches his vision to infrared spectrum and notices 4 large shapes awaiting them in a corridor. Peter says, "Jim, there are things waiting in the corridor for us. I can hear them." "Let's try this. I will throw a flare down there, and we open up on what we see." Jim returns his eyes to normal. The flare would mess up his vision. He strikes the flare and throws it down the hallway. 4 of the creatures are standing, waiting. As the light surprises them, Jim and Peter open up, Jim with his 308, and Peter using his AK-47M on full auto, spitting death into the narrow corridor. Jim using his exploding rounds. The firefight isn't long, but 2 of the creatures lay dead. The party continues down the hallway. And Bill comments, "They must have broken down the door. It shouldn't take us long to find a way out." An hour later, of winding through the maze of corridors, "We are close," Jim says. Jim had allowed the senses to take over. He smells no less than 6 of the creatures in the complex. Also a smell he doesn't recognize. They turn the corner and they are in the room they entered the complex by. Jim moves over to the door and pulls the bolt. He says this is strange. The bolt is still in place. He tries the door and it will not budge. He bangs on the door and instead of the hollow sound, it sounds solid. Jim turns to the group and says, "It's blocked." Everyone tries to talk at once, but Bill's voice is the calmest. Okay guys, the things had to get in here somehow, so there has to be another opening." Bill continues, "But we have another problem, far worse. There has to be an intelligence." "How?" Bill's words become a scream as the 8-foot creature grabs him, lifting him into the air. Faster than a thought, Lou is airborne, sinking his teeth, backed by his powerful jaws into the creature's arm, instantly weighing it down. The Gugway releases Bill, but almost just as fast, Raz leaps in, grabbing the other arm. Lou and Raz back up, pulling the creature to its knees. A shot from Jim's 308 explodes in the Gugway's face, and the creature doesn't move again. Bill hugs Lou, telling him, "Thank you, boy. I owe you a steak when we get back out of here." "You too, Raz." Raz allows Bill to pet him. "We need to get out of here. I have no clue how long the batteries in the lights will last." This time it's Peter that speaks up. "Rasputin," he calls. "Track," pointing to the dead Gugway. Raz sniffs the dead body and starts to move through the corridors until they find a wing they have not seen until now. And Peter says, "I think we have found our way out." The last Gugway charges out so fast he knocks Jim's rifle from his hands and picks him up by the shoulders. Before the creature can render him through, Jim summons all of his strength and strikes the Gugway between the eyes. Stumbling back with an almost perplexed look on its face, the creature falls to its knees. Jim pulls his .30 cal Wyoming Express and fires it directly into its face. It doesn't move again. The 2 Russians stand awestruck. How? How? Are you really a Superman?" Yuri asks. Jim says, "No. I've been, working out." Bill just shakes his head at this, and they head off down the corridor. Jim's senses are still open, and he can smell the Dogman, and that strange smell that he has no idea what it is. Lou's hackles are up as he sniffs the air. Everyone be on your toes, there is something up ahead. Maybe several somethings. As they enter the large open area, the room is actually lit, but by moonlight. Have they reached the outside? No. It's like a giant moonroof. This is a more recent part of the complex. There is a cage over the corner. It has 4 dogmen in it. They are looking at us, but not showing that much interest. Like this is common to them. Higher up there is what looks like viewing areas. Is someone watching? There is a door at the far end. Hopefully, it's the exit. Then suddenly, from around the corner, came the largest thing that Jim and the others had ever seen. This creature stood at least 18 feet tall and very heavily muscled, a giant. Both Yuri and Peter say at the same time, "Ogre!" and Bill says, "Jinoskwa." Both wolves attack while the men fire. The bullets, even Jim's exploding rounds, are just not doing enough damage to the being to bring him down. The giant creature reaches for Lou, who puts a savage bite onto its hand and avoids its grasp. Now, the creature reaches for Raz, who isn't so lucky. The large wolf dog is picked up and thrown across the room to crumple up against the wall, laying still on the floor. Round after round impact against the giant, who moves within reach of Yuri, swatting him across the room in a glancing blow, but enough to cause Yuri to lay still against the wall. Jim realizes the description of the situation. Dropping his rifle, pulling his blades, and summoning his strength, he charges the monster. Within his thoughts, he thinks, would he have to release the wolf inside of him to win this battle? And if he could win it at all? As he leaps at the monster, he is grabbed in midair, and the creature begins to squeeze, and Jim actually feels a rib crack before he is thrown to the ground, where he feels the bone in his leg give way. The only thought in his mind is to call the wolf. He must become the wolf if any are to survive. He ignores the pain in his leg as he rises to his full height, summoning all of the power he possesses. The monster reaches and Jim plants his blade deep into its hand, but is blocked and then knocked to the ground for an effort. He feels his grip on his conscience start to slip. A shot rings out and Peter had used the Dragonov SVD that had belonged to Dmitri. The round had taken the Janoskwa in the ear and penetrated the brain. The monster had a blank expression on its face before it fell dead. The battle over. And Jim's ability to heal in play, he takes stock. Lou is okay, just beat up. Yuri has a separated shoulder. And Raz is also okay, just very stunned. The dogmen are gone, an unseen exit. They were gone into the wild. They exit the complex, and now the radio works. Bill contacts Steve, and the medical transport team picks them up. And within a few hours, the injured are taken to a hospital. And Jim, Bill, and Lou return to base camp and fall into their bunks, exhausted. The lone figure that watched the battle preparing to leave the facility makes a call. "No, sir. I do not know who they were, but they killed the big guy." "Yes, sir. I have the paperwork." "Yes, sir. I am ready to head to Louisiana to work with Project Rougarou." Jim awakes the next morning to the smell of a wonderful breakfast. He crawls out of his hammock, not believing there is a place on his body that isn't hurting. By the fire preparing the meal is a beautiful First Nation woman, and Jim says, "Surprised, Dawn! It's wonderful to see you." "And I you, Jim Johnson, but I come with grave news. The great wolf you raised moved his pack south. He is severely injured and needs your help. He is also stalked by the greatest coder I have ever seen. If you do not help him, and the great coder catches him, he and his pack will surely die." Wow. Awesome stuff once again, Jim Lawrence. What a wonderful, wonderful writer you are. Very talented. Always find myself engrossed with your stories so much. Guys and girls, you know the drill. As ever, please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. I hope you're all well and happy and getting stuck in for a brand new week of work. And above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.